Alright guys, we are back. Last video we talked about like the area and the science kind of behind of how the metal got eaten at the anode. Now we're going to talk about the whole circuit. Think of corrosion like a whole circuit. We're going to use key terms like anode, cathode, electrolyte, things like that. But before I explain the whole circuit, I'm going to define some of these things. Like anode is just the place where the electrons get taken by the oxygen, and that's where the rust forms. Basically, that's where the rust forms to the naked eye. But on the atomic scale, that's where um, like oxygen takes electrons from the metal. Okay, and then cathode, the atomic scale, that's just where all the electrons go. That's where all the ions kind of all go towards. But to the naked eye, nothing really happens. No rust like breaks off or anything like that. And then electrolyte. Electrolytes are just like a bridge to let the ions go back and forth from anode to cathode. Okay, now let me switch to a visual because I think we need it this time. All right. So first of all, this is kind of the little diagram I drew. Um, let's think of this like two teams, team negative and team positive. Team negative is just this, um, the oxygen combining with the electron from the metal. And how does this go from the anode to the cathode? So this goes from the anode to the cathode by a thing called metallic bonding. This metal just has emits a lot of like electrons and stuff. And basically the atoms just let go of their outer electrons of the metal I'm talking about. The metal atoms let go of their outer electrons, and so they aren't clogged up in one spot, and they can freely just flow through the metal just to the other side. So that's how um, the electrons move through the metal. Now, how the positive team now? How does the positive team go from anode to cathode? Since there's so many ions, like look here, um, clogged up in the anode, it's just natural for these positive ions just to how do I say this? Freely flow to the cathode side. So that's how the positive team gets to from anode to cathode. Also, cathode's receiving all these negative ions, so it kind of acts like a magnet. If all the negative ions come here, the positive metal ions will naturally follow the negative ones. Okay, now at the cathode, once all these teams reach the cathode, the electrons and the electrons and the oxygen and the hydrogen from this water, right? Because it can't be possible with this water. They form and make hydroxide, and these hydroxide ions, um, yeah, they just form to the cathode to make these hydroxide ions, and then the circuit is complete when this goes back here. So these ions basically move like through the water, kind of. The water is like the electrolyte, and it moves back because the anode is constantly giving out negative electrons, right? So this part is really, I mean, the anode is constantly giving out electrons, so now this part is really positive. And because this part is really positive, the electron, the negative hydroxide ions, right, OH minus, they just combine with the water and flow all the way back to the start. And then this process keeps going and going and going until the anode keeps getting eaten up again and again and again. So hopefully this explanation worked. I try to explain this as clearly as possible because I had a hard time understanding this when I was in high school and stuff. But yes, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, guys.